And now, it's Boomer Life, lifestyle discussion designed to make your life more engaging, meaningful, and complete. Celebrating the baby boomer generation, this is Boomer Life on CIL 650.
Hello there, I'm Peter Shadd, and are you where you want to be financially? A well-thought-out plan for your financial future is an integral part of building the life for you and your family. And today, we're going to talk about a number of investor-focused concerns, starting with managing expectations. And here to help us, senior financial consultant with Investors Group Financial Services, helping people rediscover confidence in their financial futures for 27 years, with an impressive number of credentials to back up the advice, CFP, CLU, TEP, CDFA, CIWN. May I introduce Mr. Jim Doyle?
Good morning.
How are you?
Not too bad.
Let's get right into the meat and potatoes, Jim. Investor expectation. No discussion about investment choices would be complete without covering return expectations, a significant concern of most people. Are return expectations realistic, or are they offside?
I'm going to say that they probably are. By the way, it's a real pleasure to be here. It's no longer enough for investment advisors to provide great returns. We need to be aware of the psychological insights as to why people sometimes make the choices that just aren't helping them. And it appears to me that most people need a little help modifying their financial behaviors from time to time and keeping a bit of focus on the things that they need to do in order to make their future plans happen.
Behavior modification, the key to success, whether it's putting down the second dessert or saying not right now to the brand new car. And I know you help clients balance their priorities on a daily basis, but could you give us a few examples or priorities to be aware of, and then we'll get into them in detail.
Peter, there's some points of awareness that are unquestionably beneficial to all investors to take notice of. We're in the business of helping people make good choices. When it comes to behavior modification, here are 3 examples that I found particularly effective to draw clients' attention to. The first one, and this is massive, we want things, okay? We're perennially challenged between balancing needs and wants. Second, without a plan, it's hard to get to where you want. And third, we typically place too much attention on what's within our line of sight and not enough attention to that what's just beyond what we can see or touch.
Excellent. Let's start with your first point, our insatiable need for stuff.
We all want to be healthy, but we don't really want to eat healthy or exercise. How many people make choices or trade-offs about what they want to do or what they should do, okay? And it's the ultimate measure of where people's lives end up, especially when it comes to investing and financial security.
So without a plan, it's hard to get to where you need to be. It's like trying to make a trip without directions, and you are kind of like the GPS, Jim.
In my context, my role as an advisor is to help people find the right mix of sacrifice and reward that will lead to the best outcome. A plan can help you track and monitor your progress. And a huge part of changing our habits is identifying areas that we need to pay attention to, and a plan can help draw attention to areas that may have been lacking a bit of focus.
As humans, we place so much attention on what's right in front of us instead of looking down the road. In the traveling example, we look at the end of the hood of the car when we start driving instead of the end of the road, which is, again, where you come in.
Well, Peter, let me be blunt. People we work with, okay, typically build more wealth, okay? Those that work with an advisor build more wealth. Sometimes success comes down to the simple things like setting savings goals and reviewing spending choices. And a great place to start is by concentrating what is immediately in front of us, like a Visa bill, and how to pay the Visa bill.
It's easy to imagine taking a vacation, for example, next year. It's tougher to think about retirement, which is decades potentially from now. Rewards like a comfortable retirement are hazy and distant, but putting that vacation on my Visa card now, just like you mentioned, it sounds way more fun to do it that way, doesn't it?
Well, it certainly is. When it comes to investing decisions or financial decisions in general, we rely too much on past experience to predict the future. It's commonly referred to as what we call the recency effect.
Do you have an example of that?
Well, let's take health as an example. Okay? If you've had a pattern of good health up to this moment, it's difficult to envision becoming truly sick. We assume our good health will always be there. The mindset can hurt us. And as a planner, my role is to identify blind spots to help you protect yourself from the unintended consequences of unconscious choices.
Identifying blind spots to help protect us from unintended consequences of unconscious choices. Given what I've come to know about you so far, Jim, you've been helping people protect themselves from financial harm for 27 years.
It might seem simple on the surface. Investor education, which is about demonstrating sound financial principles like goal setting and measuring achievements. But what I'm really talking about when it comes to financial planning, is helping you develop and prioritize both the long-term and the short-term goals.
Now, if you feel like you could use some support to regain your focus and find financial security, Jim helps clients achieve their goals by tracking and identifying areas like targeted savings and timelines for major financial milestones. And if you want some help, because as Jim just mentioned, people who work with advisors accumulate more wealth. Call Jim and his team, 604-682-5431. That's 604-682-5431. Jim, one reality that is making it more difficult for us to focus on honing our financial strategies is consumer debt. It's at an all-time high. We know this, and it's really encroaching on our freedoms to make great choices.
I hear the possibility interest rates are going up yet again. I'm a financial planner. When I agree to take on a client, that doesn't mean that I cherry pick only the pleasant financial issues that need our attention. We have to help clients deal with personal debt and help clients understand the big picture of debt, and that includes a debt reduction plan.
For some folks, the toughest part of choosing a course of action is finding the motivation to follow through with the plan, however.
Yeah. It's important to remember that our brain registers patterns, and we're systematically average our experience to anticipate the future. However, keep in mind, life is filled with many events that we haven't considered.
So human beings are hardwired to seek and create patterns, which is why it's maybe so hard for many of us to create and stick to a budget. Not us. It's our wiring, Jim.
Well, beyond the wiring, Peter, there's a strong foundational need, financially speaking, to develop and implement a household budget. Now, I know that word, budget's not that friendly out there, but it's about creating a sense of awareness. The real work begins when the focus is on understanding needs versus wants and finding areas in the budget that can be modified.
You're going to make me cut back on the ice cream budget, aren't you, Jim?
Well, not me. Not me. Paige, maybe. Okay. I don't know about cutting back on the ice cream sandwiches, really. Okay, but we need a little bit of sweetness in our lives, and financial security definitely comes down to identifying money behaviors, and especially identifying and understanding self-defeating or damaging money behaviors.
Now, in our last show, we were talking about the missing 70% in most financial relationships, i.e., if we're focusing only on investment performance and returns, we could be missing out on 70% of the conversation. So let's talk about that for a minute.
Peter, comes down to the conversations that aren't happening around money and investments. And there's a lot of miscommunications, especially between couples and their families or the key players in the family discussions about what really matters.
Things like becoming ill and dying, having an accident, or supporting a loved one through these life-changing events. These are uncomfortable events for any of us to think about, much less spend time preparing for. We don't want to think about unpleasant things, Jim, but these are the conversations that I'm guessing are at the very root of what's important to us and where you come in.
Peter, the message that I want to underscore here today is there is so much opportunity to enhance outcomes if these conversations are held within your family and with your advisor. I'm talking specifically about conversations involving income planning, insurance and estate planning, taxes, planned giving, caregiving, and here's a monstrous one, aging with dignity.
So we're not helping ourselves get ahead if we're reluctant to have these conversations with our loved ones, or if we're reluctant to have these conversations with our advisors who are there to help protect us from ourselves. You're listening to Boomer Life, starring senior financial consultant with the Investors Group Financial Services, Jim Doyle. 27 years of experience under his belt, and he can help you regain your focus to find financial security. If anything you've heard here has sparked your curiosity, here's how you reach Jim Doyle and his team, 604-682-5431. That's 604-682-5431. Isn't one of the things, Jim, that deters people from financial planning in the first place is lack of understanding about what a written financial plan involves? Like, how do you encourage people to create their financial plan?
Well, I have to be fair here. It can be pretty daunting to start the planning process. The hows and whys of money and investments, they're pretty powerful stuff. But there's so much to pay attention to that affects the things that really matter to us. It helps to start with remembering that we need to banish financial shame if we want to get ahead.
How do you do that, banishing financial shame?
I'd like to suggest it starts with money mindfulness. When clients we work with feel most stressed about their finances, it's usually because their personal budget is out of whack. It can be anything from overspending on certain categories to not properly planning purchases. Regular budget checkups are essential, since life and all of the expenses are rarely constant.
Jim, I'd say most of us need help confronting our financial demons, so it's great to have you here acknowledging the big pink elephant in the room. But even though we don't always like to admit it, most of us could probably use some help and ongoing guidance to make the best choices for ourselves and for our families.
The challenge is cutting through the clutter, staying focused, and paying attention to the things that really matter.
Cutting through the clutter. You're a clutter cutter, Jim.
I like that. But it might seem obvious, but an objective, knowledgeable, and caring perspective is invaluable to any financial planning relationship. And in this regard, we're uniquely positioned to help optimize one of the most important areas shaping your entire life, your financial security.
Jim, we've all known people over the years who believe that when it comes to investing, returns are the end goal. But based on what we've been talking about here today, when it comes to performance on a life-size stage, success is determined by clearly defined goals, goals determined through the financial planning process. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
If you have questions about your financial situation or feel like it's time to do more to regain your focus and find financial security, call Jim Doyle, 604-682-5431. Here's Jim's email, jim.doyle, that's Doyle, at investorsgroup.com. There's a lot more coming up this hour. You're listening to Boomer Life on CIL 650 with yours truly, Peter Shad, and today with Jim Doyle, Senior Financial Consultant with Investors Group. When we come back, we've got some reassuring news to share with you. Hint, if you're feeling anxious about your money, you're not alone. Coming up next on Boomer Life.
Celebrating the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on CIL 650.